On November 24, 2022, a Flair Airlines Boeing 737-800 overran the runway at Waterloo International Airport in Ontario, Canada. There were no injuries reported and no apparent damage to the aircraft. It's taken a while for investigators to publish their results, but with the final report now released, it has been concluded that pilot fatigue was one of the main causes of the incident. We take a look for today's video. One quick note before we begin, there isn't too much usable footage of Flair Airlines 737-800 fleet, so we'll be including video of other 737s landing. And so, the Transportation Safety Board, or TSB, of Canada, in releasing its investigation report on the November 2022 incident, found that during the landing attempt at Waterloo, the captain left the engine autothrottle engaged after disengaging the autopilot. As the aircraft was about to touch down, the captain inadvertently pressed the takeoff/go-around switch instead of disengaging the autothrottle. The action caused the autothrottle to command an increase in engine thrust. Furthermore, the crew did not notice the takeoff/go-around cockpit indication as they were primarily focused on what was going on outside the flight deck. One factor cited in the report was pilot fatigue, but the report also mentions external elements requiring the crew's attention during the flare and landing, and the failure of the aircraft systems to provide visual and oral cues to alert the crew of the inadvertent mode change during that phase of the flight. On the topic of the captain's fatigue, the TSB noted that during the week leading up to the incident, the pilot had conducted 2 other overnight flights. While his schedule had included enough time off duty and he found himself fit for the flight, he had accrued a significant sleep debt during that week and conducted the flight after a nearly 18-hour wake period at the end of a circadian low. The TSB report states, as a result, at the time of the occurrence, the captain's level of fatigue decreased his attention and vigilance and increased the likelihood of a slip. The investigation found that if pilots do not monitor their rest to assess if they have accrued a sleep debt, there is an increased risk of fatigue going undetected and unmitigated. Flair acknowledged the TSB report, saying that it has always operated in full compliance with safety regulations and maintenance standards. The airline added that it has, quote, industry-standard fatigue management software and refined scheduling practices. And then, outside of pilot fatigue, it was during the landing flare that the captain held both thrust levers at idle and removed his hand from the left thrust lever to activate the right engine thrust reverser after touchdown. The aircraft was still in go-around mode and the right engine was producing reverse thrust while the left engine began advancing towards maximum thrust. This deactivated the automatic systems that would have helped stop the aircraft. The result was difficulty in controlling the jet. The aircraft stayed on the runway as the captain used manual braking to reduce speed, but unfortunately ran out of runway. The aircraft came to a stop about 300 feet from the pavement edge and 500 feet from the runway end. There were no injuries and no apparent damage to the aircraft. In May 2022, about 7 months before the incident, a defect in the aircraft's left thrust reverser was reported. There were 22 other reports provided during the months before the incident. The airline had identified a specific part that needed to be replaced to rectify the situation, and despite being procured in early November 2022, it had not been installed at the time of the incident. The defect was not considered a recurring defect by regulatory definition, thus the carrier's maintenance control software did not identify it as such. Following the incident, Flair modified its operating procedures to better support the requirement to simultaneously disengage both the autopilot and autothrottle, a requirement which already existed. What are your thoughts on this incident and the report's conclusions? Let us know by leaving a comment. In addition to our daily YouTube videos, Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles every week. If you're looking for the latest aviation news and insights, visit simpleflying.com.